So after spending Bitcoin over 300 times in El Salvador in 2022, many of you guys wanted to see me tackle a bigger and a better challenge. So I decided, hey, why don't I fly from what used to be the world's most dangerous country, El Salvador, all the way to Colombia, which today, by many reports, is the world's most dangerous country. And I'm not going to lie, I was absolutely shocked at what I found in the country in regards to Bitcoin adoption, but also what the locals knew and thought about Bitcoin, inflation, and even Nayib Bukele. What do you think of Nayib Bukele?
I love the guy. I love that he's building the Bitcoin city. I love that you can buy and sell things with Bitcoin. I love that he made Bitcoin an official currency.
What does she know about Bitcoin?
So you guys are going to have to stick around towards the end of today's videos to find out a little bit more about those interviews, as well as that really cool Bitcoin cafe that we did find. But I want to first show you a little bit more about my Bitcoin challenge, because I'm not going to lie to you guys, it did not get off to the best start. So day one of the Bitcoin challenge, I have a little bit of bad news here. We found another bank. The missus is a little bit over it, but there is no Bitcoin ATMs in here. Only these shitty little fiat ATMs. What's this trash?
Few moments later.
Oh, don't tell me. I think we've hit luck here in Colombia. Day one on the Bitcoin Challenger, we got one. 14 ATMs later, and would you look at that? Sopote. So Pam and I were certainly struggling when we landed in Colombia, because we're not going to lie, Colombia is certainly not the Bitcoin hotspot that El Salvador is, despite Colombia having 10 times more people. You can see from this map though, despite Colombia's massive population, it has a tiny amount of Bitcoin events and Bitcoiners in the country compared to El Salvador. But eventually we did finally manage to find an ATM that would actually allow us to get some local Colombian pesos for Bitcoin. But I'm not going to lie, we were a little bit dejected. We copped a 15% fee on this one. So we frantically searched for a better solution. And guess what that solution took us? It took us to a cafe called Mind Cafe. As you can see from these videos, it is a Bitcoiner's dream. This is a little Bitcoin hotspot in Medellin, Colombia. And I was surprised to find out there's actually a number of these cafes all throughout Colombia. And we were successfully able to sell some Bitcoin for some Colombian pesos at a far better rate than the 15% scam that we did get at the ATM. Now, the really cool thing about this cafe wasn't just our ability to get our hands on some local fiat currency at an okay rate. It was actually all the really cool artwork they had here. As you can see here, check out some of the animations they have. I think they must have spent tens of thousands of dollars solely on the animations. There wasn't only Bitcoin animations. There is, as you can see, some NFTs and some crypto shenanigans in the cafe, but I'm not going to hold that against them. They were Bitcoiners and they let us pay for our lunch and our coffee in Bitcoin. We even bought some clothes with some Bitcoin. I got one of these cool little t-shirts here that you can see. So overall, it was a great little place to find on our second day in Colombia, and we did have enough Colombian pesos to get us through the next couple of days or so. Now, this was the biggest issue for us in Colombia, because unlike El Salvador, where you can spend Bitcoin to buy your groceries every single day, that's not the case in Colombia. Many of the local merchants are never going to touch Bitcoin with a 10-foot pole. They are far less exposed to Bitcoin than the shops in El Salvador are. So we had to use cash for a lot of our transactions in our day-to-day life, but we did manage to get a massage with Bitcoin. Now, I'm not going to lie, I was pretty shocked that I could pay for a massage in Bitcoin, so I had to ask the lady, I had to ask the couple, what do you guys think about Bitcoin? Why are you accepting Bitcoin in the middle of nowhere? We were in a small little beach town called Santa Marta, and we certainly did not expect to find any sort of big Bitcoin adoption there, so this is what they said.
We just got an absolutely phenomenal massage, and our lady knows about Bitcoin. Pam, ask her what she knows. We tried to pay in Bitcoin. What does she know about Bitcoin?
¿Qué sabe usted sobre Bitcoin?
Es una moneda digital que está habilitada en varias ciudades aquí en Colombia.
Ah, de verdad.
De hecho, hay unos cajeros que permiten el retiro de bitcoins en algunas partes, y por eso, por ejemplo, la entidad bancaria con la que nosotros hacemos pagos digitales, que nos pagan nosotros directamente como cajero, permite el pago en bitcoin. A veces está un poco caída la señal y todo, porque tal vez es algo novedoso, pero sí se permite.
Okay. I don't remember at all what she said.
That's okay. Muchas gracias.
Now, these guys were the rare exception in Colombia. They knew more than most, and I was actually surprised at how little the general population in Colombia were actually worried about inflation, considering the dire inflation that the country has had over the past 30 years. As you can see by this chart, Colombia suffered an inflation crisis in the 1990s. Inflation was as high as 20 and 30% for a number of years, and even despite moderating a little bit in the early 2000s, it saw many spikes and peaks up to 7 and 10% inflation in 2010, 2012, 2014. So I honestly expected to find a little bit more Bitcoin adoption than we did find in the country. But it is actually these inflation spikes that has kind of put Colombia on the map. It's not only due to its beautiful scenery that you can see here, but it is actually also due to its cost of living. We can see that the Colombian peso has lost more than 50% of its value against the dollar in the past 10 years. And this massive devaluation against the dollar is why you can become a Colombian peso millionaire with only $200. I'm going to play you a short little clip of me at the airport exchanging $200 for over 1 million Colombian pesos to give you guys a little bit of a better visualization of what I mean. So these are 50 million Colombian peso notes. Take a look at that. And this whole stack of 50 million peso notes only buys you about $200. Hyperinflation is real, and we all know what fixes this. Of course, that solution is Bitcoin, and no, sadly, at the currency exchange place that I did use to swap dollars to pesos, they did not accept Bitcoin yet. Apparently, it was something they were considering in the future. This is why you'll commonly hear digital nomads say that you should actually earn in a foreign currency like Bitcoin or dollars and spend in pesos because it is so cheap, okay? And places like Mexico, Colombia, and Argentina that all use pesos, all of the cost of living in these countries is amazing. Check out how much food we could get with only $90 in Colombia. We were able to frequently get massive loads of grocery hauls for like under $100. Even with this amount of food, we had kilos worth of meat, and the entire shop cost us less than $100. So this is only one of the reasons that is bringing digital nomads all around the world to Colombia. Medellin in particular is actually one of the most visited cities by digital nomads all around the world, and that is for a pretty good reason. Just have a look at how gorgeous some of these apartments are, and just take a look at some of the views that you see on a daily basis. Medellin is right up in the mountains, and not only does it have some beautiful scenery, it has some of the best weather all around the year. They actually call Medellin the city of eternal spring, and that is because we have spring-like weather all around the world in Medellin. So this thriving network of digital nomads is also why there are a number of Bitcoiners in the country of Medellin. As you can see here, I was lucky enough to meet some amazing Bitcoiners at a few different meetups, and when I was at one of these meetups, I was happily surprised to find a couple of Bitcoiners who actually run a coffee business that's all based on Bitcoin. You can see here that their name is Lightning Coffee. It is some of the best coffee in Colombia, and every single time I was running low on my coffee supply, I would just hit Jose up and I'd go get myself a couple of bags of freshly grounded coffee. The stuff is amazing, and it is really cool to see the local Colombians embrace Bitcoin for their local businesses, okay? This is what I think Bitcoin adoption should all be about, okay? Even if you're orange pilled, you don't need to go all in on Bitcoin with all of your time, okay? The best thing you can do is integrate Bitcoin into your local business. Now, speaking of local businesses, now I want to show you a little bit more about what the Colombians on the ground think about Bitcoin. We were lucky enough to meet a number of different people in the country who were gracious enough to give us a little bit of their time to actually tell us what they think about Bitcoin, El Salvador, Colombia, inflation, anything you want to know. We asked them about it. So I'm actually going to play you guys a couple of clips from a little impromptu interview that we did have with one of our local dentists. I was in there working one day. Pam was getting her teeth fixed, and they must have heard El Salvador Bukele, and one of the dentists, they started talking to the other, and we were pretty shocked and surprised to know that they actually know about El Salvador and Bukele. So we asked them, hey, you want to say that on camera for us? So we stuck the microphone in their face, and this is what they had to say. So we are in Medellin, Colombia. I'm just getting my teeth fixed with the girlfriend, trying to get some retainers going. But we met some amazing staff here at premium dental practice. I said their name correctly. And they, surprise, surprise, know about Nayib Bukele. So we're going to ask our amazing dentist people what they think about Bitcoin and what they think about Bukele. So, ¿cómo te llamas?
Bueno, mi nombre es Wesley Mejía, soy odontóloga de la ciudad de Medellín.
¿Qué opina usted de Bukele? Nayib Bukele.
Bueno, Nayib Bukele me parece un político excepcional y me parece que está haciendo un excelente trabajo en El Salvador, ya que ha logrado corregir mucho el tema de la corrupción, el vandalismo, el secuestro y todas las muertes que antes tenían en El Salvador. Y nos encantaría tener un presidente como él aquí en Colombia.
Do you understand something?
Sí, because I speak lots of Spanish, I understood every single thing of that. ¿Y Bitcoin ahora? ¿Te gusta Bitcoin?
Tengo cierto conocimiento del Bitcoin, pero tengo un poco más de conocimiento de inversiones en la bolsa.
Sí, bienvenido al futuro. Muchas gracias. So that's what some of the dentists think about Bitcoin and inflation and Bukele in Colombia. But what about the everyday man on the street? Well, Pam and I were out getting sushi one night and we were once again checking out the Mind Cafe. It is one of the best looking Bitcoin cafes I've been to, and two people approached us. They also began taking photos of the cafe. They look like Bitcoiners. So I said, hey, you want to answer a few questions about Bitcoin for a little movie I'm making? And they said, of course. These chaps were actually from America, and this is what they thought about Bitcoin, inflation, and Colombia. We are back here. We're in Medellin, Colombia. I was just talking to this lovely chap here who is an American, and out of nowhere, he said something about El Salvador's president. What do you think of Nayib Bukele?
I love the guy. I love that he's doing the Bitcoin city. I love that you can buy and sell things with Bitcoin. I love that he made Bitcoin an official currency. So I think he's moving forward with that. So we love it.
We need that in America. There you go. This is a guy from America who knows Nayib Bukele, the president of a tiny little country in Central America.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, man.
Now, if you guys are interested and you do want to watch the full interviews, they are a little bit long for one YouTube video. You can check us out on Twitter if you want to watch those full on-the-street interviews, or we are also going to try to embed them into our weekly free newsletter that we put out. Again, links to both of those, our Twitter and our newsletter, will be in the description of today's YouTube video. So these two chaps in America weren't the only people that were actually interested in Bitcoin that we stumbled upon in the country. So on day 4 or 5 of our Bitcoin challenge from memory, we were out looking for a Bitcoin ATM. And when we finally found it, we were very, very pleasantly surprised at what we found. We actually had to wait in line at the Bitcoin ATM because there was somebody else using it. Of course, we had to stop her and we had to ask her a little bit about Bitcoin and how long she's been using the ATM for. Here's a short video of me and my translator, Pam, asking the Spanish-speaking Colombian what she thought about Bitcoin. So we were at the Bitcoin ATM. We found a lovely lady who actually uses Bitcoin and uses this ATM frequently. Pam, you got a couple of questions for her?
Yeah. No. She is the third time that she uses it.
Okay.
Lo usa solo para comprar. Para comprar. She only uses for buy Bitcoin.
Perfecto. What does she think of Bitcoin?
She uses for investment. ¿Qué piensa usted de Bitcoin?
Para mí es ahora como la memoria en este momento con la evaluación que tenemos.
Sí, muchas gracias. And funny enough, she wasn't the only lovely lady in Colombia who was exposed to Bitcoin. So we spent over 6 months of our time in one city in Colombia. It's called Medellin or Medellin or whatever you want to call it. Let me know in the comments actually down below whether you guys call it Medellin or Medellin. There's a little bit of controversy out there surrounding the pronunciation of that word, so do let me know. I kind of flip-flop on the issue, but we spent 6 months in that city, and in our 6-month stay, we actually hired a maid to help us out with the home. There was 4 of us living in a house, and the beautiful thing about Colombia is the super dirt cheap cost of living. We were able to afford the services of a lovely lady for around $300 to $400 for a full-time worker for a whole month. Okay, so this is obviously one of the reasons that people do travel to Colombia and these places, because how much does it cost to get a full-time worker 40 hours a week for 31 days a month to come and cook, clean, and go grocery shopping for you. In America, it would probably be tens of thousands of dollars. In Colombia, it's only $400, and that's not even entirely accurate because Janet is a lovely lady and she was learning a little bit more about Bitcoin staying with us, and we actually convinced her to get a portion of her paycheck every single month in Bitcoin. So I'm going to show you guys a quick video of us actually showing her how to set up her Bitcoin wallet, and we're also going to ask her what she thinks about Bitcoin. So look at that in the background. The females are doing Bitcoin. Have a look at this. Who said boomers can't use Bitcoin? The girlfriend's on the Spanish, and she is showing Janet, our amazing housemaid, how to use Bitcoin. So we've set her up with 2 wallets. We've got Moon and we've got Wallet of Satoshi.
And the other one
so she's sending money from her Wallet of Satoshi to her Moon.
Aquí le vamos a dar.
Who said Bitcoin's too hard for boomers? There you go. So there's the transaction.
Esas son las transacciones que he hecho. Cuando le pagamos fue un 31 de marzo. Ahorita, eso es lo que ha hecho ahorita. Le pregunta a Luke qué opina de Bitcoin.
Pues a ver, yo digo que es una revolución.
Sí.
Que me encantaría pues porque acaba con este sistema que nos tiene hasta acá.
Sí.
Hasta el cuello.
Sí.
Sí.
Y que es, nos pone muy independientes.
That they have the dollar.
And ask her about her Bitcoin. So it went up from 50,000 Colombian pesos. We paid her in that, what, a month ago? And now what's it worth? Ask her what she thinks about that.
¿Qué piensa de que hace unos meses le pagamos con Bitcoin y ahorita veo que le subió?
Pues eso me pone muy feliz. Porque si yo lo tuviera en un banco estaría perdiendo porque me estarían cobrando el 4 por 1000.
Sí. Sí. Muchas gracias. Now, I'm not going to lie, Pam and myself already missed Janet. She was like a part of the family for 6 months. So it's pretty sad to leave Colombia and leave her in the city there. But I know what some of you guys might be thinking. Oh, but those are custodial wallets. Why using Moon Wallet and Wallet of Satoshi? I know what you guys are saying, and they're just simply too easy to use if you're going to onboard someone. I've tried to onboard people on self-custodial Lightning wallets before, and every now and then you might get an issue. So let me know in the comments down below what wallets you guys use to actually onboard people. We obviously tell everyone that we onboard. If you're going to invest more than $1,000 into Bitcoin, you should be putting that onto a cold storage hardware wallet where the private keys are 100% offline. Again, there's a number of great Bitcoin only hardware wallets out there. We recommend you check out the Bitbox 02 hardware wallet. It is the cheapest and easiest one to get set up with, and you guys can get 5% off that puppy if you use a promo code CoinBeast. But that's a little bit about my time in Colombia. So that's a little bit about my trip. But what was the good parts? What were the bad parts? Where were the hardest places to spend Bitcoin? And what surprised me most about Bitcoin adoption? So let's begin with the hardest place that I found to spend Bitcoin in Colombia. That was actually, of course, the airports. The airports are difficult for everything. We got ourselves into a little bit of a conundrum at the airport one day. I naturally always like to push the boundaries a little bit. My suitcases are always a couple of kilos over the weight limits. And then I started traveling with a girlfriend, Pam. And of course, she brings a boatload of clothes with her. And we were over their baggage limit one day. So we've been relegated to the back room here at the airport. We've got a flight in about an hour 40. And we have a big problem. Tenemos un grande problema. We've 6 kilos over our luggage, so wish us luck. They would not accept Bitcoin for us to pay extra for our luggage. Pam's a bit pissed off I have all these damn Bitcoin books in there.
All your things are heavy.
Timeless, baby. The Bitcoin times. Come on. Yeah, so we're going to let you know how we go. A bit of an update. They won't accept Bitcoin, but we need to somehow reduce this by 4 kilos. Ah, Jesus. I'm just going to throw out all the girlfriend's clothes.
No.
Now, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Maybe it wasn't entirely Pam's fault for the little luggage situation that we did have. It could have been partially my fault. I did buy myself 3 big packs packs of the Bitcoin Times magazines that you can see over my shoulder, and they are pretty heavy because, as you can see, they are absolutely packed with some of the best Bitcoin articles and Bitcoin art there is in the space. Again, if you guys did want to get your hands on a copy of the Bitcoin Times magazines, they are a collector's items. There are only 2,100 copies of each one printed, and you can get 21,000 sats off your copy if you use the promo code CoinBeast. The only problem is you're not going to be able to get copy 309 of each magazine because, as you can see, that is the copy that I get every single year. As soon as they come out, I get my hands on 309. So again, check out the Bitcoin Times link down below if you want to grab your hands on one of those. To the girlfriend's demise, I'm going to continue buying more and more of those puppies as soon as they come out and putting us further and further over that weight limit every single time we travel. But this situation at the airport did finally force my hand. I had to sell some Satoshis and went and bought a bigger suitcase. And when we were buying a suitcase, we talked to a couple of people who had heard about Bitcoin before. So I said, hey, would you guys like to appear in my crazy little documentary and tell us a little bit about what you know about inflation and Bitcoin? Because we were asking them why their prices had to be raised so many different times in the past.
You guys will notice this is our amigo from earlier, and we're going to ask him a little bit about Bitcoin. Amigo, ¿por qué no aceptas Bitcoin?
Por el sistema, aún por la actualización del sistema, aún no admite la moneda Bitcoin.
Había escuchado antes de Bitcoin, antes de preguntarle nosotros aquí en Colombia.
Sí.
Fíjese ya.
What does he think about it?
¿Qué piensa del Bitcoin?
¿Qué pienso? Pues es una herramienta, sí, una moneda que aún no ha sido, como se dice, regulada. Se puede manejar, sí, pero todo es como sistematizado, entonces hay que manejarla de mejor manera.
Mucho gracias, amigo. ¿Cómo te llamas?
Alonso, mucho gusto.
Bienvenido.
So that's a little bit about what the locals think about Bitcoin adoption in Colombia. What do I think? Well, I think it is a lot harder to spend Bitcoin in Colombia than El Salvador. I spent Bitcoin over 300 times in El Salvador, and despite Colombia having a population at least 10 times larger than El Salvador's, I probably only spent Bitcoin, say, 10 to 15 times, and I was there for well over 6 months, close to a year in the country. It is a gorgeous country. But if you do want to see how easy it is to live on a Bitcoin standard in El Salvador, and you somehow missed the video, you can definitely check out the link to that video. I'll pop a link to it on screen right there. And with all that said, let me know which country you'd like me to travel to next and do a little update on the Bitcoin adoption on the ground. Let me know if you've been to El Salvador or Colombia. I would love to hear your experience. And with all that said, I will see you all in the next video.